So, you asked us a little bit about what we think about this movie, and I don't know if this is
Yeah.
considered a hot take, but here's my hot take. This movie's good the first time, and then after that, like it's okay.
Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Today on the podcast, we are on the topic of the month, which are movies that are mind-bending. And tonight's movie is the 2006 mystery thriller directed by Christopher Nolen and written by Nolan and his brother, Jonathan, starring Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall, and David Bowie. And that movie is The Prestige. Let's talk about this movie, guys. What did you think about The Prestige? I'm guessing
first you forgot about
have you all
Andy
seen it?
Serkis.
Oh, I did forget about Andy Serkis. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
He's really good. I always forget that how good of an actor he is outside of motion capture and stuff, because he's a decent actor. I mean, not amazing, but a decent and stuff. But yeah, Andy Serkis. I forgot to put him on here. Good call, John.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true. He's I wouldn't say, I don't know. Would you say mainly motion capture films?
He's done some live action. He did Devil Wears Prada, which is another big one that he did, which he's really good in. It's funny. He kind of pops up here and there in live action. You're like, oh, him. That's Andy Serkis.
Right.
Of course, he did some of the Marvel. He did Marvel.
Yeah,
one of the Captain American ones.
No, and he was in Age of Ultron too. He was
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, he was the weapons dealer or something.
He's Claw. He's also in Black Panther.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
right.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. When he got his new hand, the actual Claw.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's a good actor. He does good. He does good live action, but he does. He's also like really good actor when it comes to being able to, do that motion capture stuff too. I mean, him being the monkey in the Planet of the Apes movies, he's great in those. Being Caesar,
and he's Snoke in the new Star Wars.
That's true.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't place him as Snoke for the longest time. It wasn't until I had seen the credits that I really realized, I'm like, oh, wait a second. So I didn't immediately place him as Snoke when I first saw it.
Yeah,
but he started out originally as just live action altogether, though, and then he kind of just fell into this niche, of motion capture.
I'm not sure how this became the Andy Serkis podcast.
No,
but
anyways,
it basically is. I had to jump on Josh for forgetting an amazing actor. So
the one thing about Christopher Nolan movies, I guess, and Jonathan Nolan movies, is that they seem to almost always have lots of really good actors, and Michael Caine, who is a superior actor.
Michael Caine,
because he's like in my level. I think he is just fantastic, but he's in almost all of his movies to date, and I probably will be until he can't do it anymore.
That was some very choice phrasing there, Josh. All these great actors and
Michael
Caine, he's not a great actor.
I know what it meant.
Was he in Dunkirk? I don't think he was in Dunkirk, was he?
No, I think it's the one rare one he wasn't, because he was in Tenet. You couldn't understand him in Tenet,
and Interstellar, and I don't think he was in. I don't know if you count Man of Steel, but I mean he wasn't in Man of Steel. He technically didn't do. No, he did part of the story.
He wasn't in Memento.
Oh yeah.
No, but he's been in a lot of Nolan's movies. I feel like whenever Nolan can get him in there, he does.
Let's just get Michael Caine for this one. He's great.
And he plays a lot of similar parts in a lot of them too. He's kind of like that helper dude,
Or
in a lot of them.
The
mentor.
I don't know, what do you call him? The mentor. Yeah,
that's a good way.
Or the wisdom, I guess, is kind of what they're. So you asked us a little bit about what we think about this movie, and I don't know if this is considered a hot take, but here's my hot take. This movie's good the first time, and then after that, like it's okay. Like I think it's really good the first time, and you're not, you're not necessarily expecting a massive twist. You want to know what's going on. You want to know what's happening, and then when it finally comes, you're like, oh, cool. That's really neat and cool. And then you go back and rewatch it the second time, and it's like, this is not that neat. Now that I know everything that's happening, and know what's going on, like it's not as nearly as good as it was. And I know that's part of it. It's just you lose that element of
Yeah, it's like the fifth.
curiosity, I
It's
guess.
like the Sixth Sense. Everybody knows. Now that once you find out he's dead, I mean, it kind of takes the whole fun
Well,
out.
sort
Well,
of.
some of the fun out
I'm
of
going
it.
to push back on that a little bit because I think
But I'm
as
gonna
much as
push
this
back
is.
too with you, Crit, a little bit too.
Oh, okay.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead though. No, I
Okay.
want you to say things because I think you're going to say similar to what I'm going to say.
Well, I would say that watching The Sixth Sense over again changes the context of the conversations they're having, which makes it enjoyable to watch again. Like there's subtext that's now that you
exactly.
didn't know the first time. You
Yeah.
have to watch it.
And I would say that
midway
with the
through.
Prestige too, the same thing.
I don't
That's
think
exactly
so.
what I was going to say
I don't
too.
think so. Yeah,
I don't think
and
The
that's
Prestige has the same thing.
I think it
and
does.
that's kind of the point I'm making. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want
Is
to
that the
talk over each
Prestige?
other. Let's
Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
We're all excited to talk tonight.
I guess.
No,
Usually
I would
it's
agree
dead
with
air.
Crit that I kind of was looking at this, even though I did know what was going to happen and I didn't know the ending. I still got enjoyment out of it, kind of looking for clues that were early on of what I missed, later, because I think this is the only second time I've seen it. I'm pretty sure this is the second time, and I've seen it bits and pieces other times, but not the whole thing all in one sitting. So this time I was definitely looking for what kind of clues that I have the whole time that
I don't,
and
and I don't think there was a lot of clues though. That's the problem I think I
they're
have
pretty
with it.
subtle.
They're subtle enough to where I think I don't know. Like I we talked about it. I can't remember what movie we talked about it in, but we talked about where the director or the writers like to pull a last minute aha to make the audience feel kind of dumb and how they missed all this stuff when in all reality like they didn't really actually miss all that much because there wasn't much there. And that's kind of what I feel like on the second or third. This was probably my third or fourth rewatch, I think, of it. I don't know. I like, yeah, like you said, they're subtle clues, but even then, without the context of knowing what's going on, like I don't think you'd ever cast some of these things in the light enough to call them a clue. I don't know if that makes sense. I know that was word vomit.
I think if you're watching, you'd see it like the times where the wife would say, "I don't believe you today," that you love me today. I believe you other days. I think that's a subtle hint because she could tell between the two brothers, when it was not the one that loved her versus the one that did love her. And then they did bring it up at the very end because I literally got done watching this movie 15 minutes ago. I mean, 15 minutes before we started. And I didn't realize that they kind of played a little blip at the very end of a few of the clues. And one of them was the hand of why is this infected again, type scenario.
Right.
When it happened to be, she said that when you find out later that he had actually cut his dang fingers off of the brother to make it look like they were the same person. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but those are the subtle clues I picked up on immediately, when I was rewatching it.
Yeah, I'm not. I get what you're saying about subtle. I don't know if I agree that they're actually that subtle. I think I think this interesting is that I think this is their attempts to do the Sixth Sense, and the problem is like the subtlety in the Sixth Sense is all in the conversations and the blocking of the characters, and I'm not sure that is like this is. I'll just come out and say it. This is probably my least favorite Nolan film out of all of his films, because it's just not. I don't know. I mean, one of the notes I wrote in is you're reading my note narrative switches are just made me cringe. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
No.
So wait, you like this less than Tenet?
Yeah, I like Tenet better because Tenet has a more interesting film. Like it's a more interesting film to watch because of the backwards and kind of two timelines happening at the same time. Like just the visual switches. The narrative is better also because it's more cerebral. This one's just kind of, we're pulling the wool over your eyes, and also this isn't really, it's I don't know. I'm guessing I'm getting more
Hey,
into my full critique of the
you know what,
movie.
Crit? It's funny you say that. This is probably one of my least favorite Nolan movies as well. And I'm going to be honest with you. The first time I watched this movie, this makes me feel stupid saying this. Okay, it felt enough switching back and forth between one reading the other notes and some of the reveals and stuff like that I honestly had to have it explained to me what the big deal was at the very end. And I know I feel dumb saying that because everybody's like, it's apparent now, me rewatching it. But I looked over, I think my wife, and I'm just like, I don't get it. And then
Well,
she finally keyed me into like, he's killing himself every night. He gets put into the thing, and then it's making a duplicate of himself. It gets put somewhere else.
well,
Yeah, I'm
that's
like,
why
uh
that's where I think the main theme is interesting, but I think the execution, I don't know, it just isn't as compelling to me. Like, no, this film isn't a bad film by any means,
no,
and it
no,
is
no.
entertaining, especially on the first watch. But this idea of like commitment, it's basically the whole theme is about commitment. It's
Mhm.
like the two twins are so committed that they manage to live their entire lives under this narrative without giving it away, and how incredibly difficult that was and sacrificing it was for them. And then like the other character, he's basically committing suicide once he finally does it. Now the problem that I have is that it goes from like practical magic to full on magic,
Yeah.
aka science or whatever. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that switch is weird in a sense, because I think it means that this universe that this is told in, these things are possible, and this is the extent that their imaginations went to use it. Like, I think a real magician that had the ability to do this type of thing would come up with something more interesting than just dropping himself into, you know, a, a, a tank and drowning every night for 100 nights or 100 shows. And it's like, I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah, it's the first watch is kind of like that's interesting, and the second watch I was like, I'm kind of cringing at stuff. I'm not as forgiving about the rule of cool when it comes to writing, I guess. Like,
Mhm.
if it's rule of cool in visuals, I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. Or in plot, in kind of where we are and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I can turn off my brain on that. But the problem with this is that this movie is asking you to engage in the narrative in a way that wants to be cerebral, but it doesn't feel like it's actually cerebral. Like, there's some underlying tones that I think are interesting, but it just doesn't bring them. It doesn't stay on them very long. The whole idea of like commitment and what you're willing to do to be the greatest at something. But I think it gets muddled by the whole magical nature of it, and not like the you know magic show, but more along the lines of like the real, like Tesla's actually invented real cloning and teleportation.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree with that. It is a little weird, that kind of twist of they go from real stuff that somebody really could do, really have an illusion, to kind of made up, not practical stuff. But I don't know if that took me out of it, but it definitely it definitely um, makes you feel less practical. Less
And I
like
think
more, I don't know, made up, I guess. Yeah.
and I
Go
think
ahead.
I think I just get kind of like I don't know if bored isn't the right word, but kind of like that kind of feeling of bored, of the one guy shows up at the other guy's show dressed as a thing, and he manages to get on stage and screw something up, and the other guy dresses up and shows up and shoot. It's like this whole thing. You're reading my book. No, now you're reading my book. Last page. Aha! I knew you were going to read my book. It's like it. I don't know. The writing is not. That's not fun to me. Like, that was just kind of like,
It
I
was a
don't
little
feel.
tedious, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Tedious is a good word. It felt tedious.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the back and forth was definitely tedious. Hit them. How many times they came to his prison cell and visited, and I felt that was a bit tedious as well. The visits and stuff like that. The
Yeah, I think the narrative just isn't. The story isn't very tight, um, and maybe that's just my expectation of his movies being tighter on their themes and kind of reinforcing. Um, I don't want to ever say that this movie is lazy, because everybody put an immense effort into this movie.
I don't think I would ever say that Christopher Nolan movie is a
But
lazy.
it's
There's a
probably
lazy
his
movie.
laziest movie, it feels like.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, at least from a narrative perspective, for me.
I would say it's the least put together because I mean, especially like when you think of Memento and how tight that is, and
Well, to put it in perspective, I forgot this was a Christopher Nolan movie.
I actually had to.
Like to put that into perspective, like the rest of Christopher Nolan movies, you can tell me a movie and I know like, oh yeah, that's a Christopher Nolan movie, and I could probably name, I don't know, the at least all of the major ones he did. But
Yep.
this one, I completely forgot it was a Christopher Nolan film.
I'm right there with you, John. I did too. I actually only when I rented it did I would like, oh, I forgot that he did this. I'm right there with you. I find it funny that both of us did that.
What
Well,
I
and I
find
think
funny is
just
I thought I was going to like it again. I thought, oh yeah, The Prestige. I remember liking this movie. I mean, I haven't ever rewatched it, but I don't rewatch a lot of things really. So, and I was surprised at how much I was like, oh yeah, okay. And so like taking notes and stuff on it. None of my notes are amazingly positive except for maybe some of the set dressings and costuming.
And David Bowie, I'm sure.
David Bowie was great. Yeah, I liked him as
Was
Tesla.
He did a good job as Tesla. I'm going to say that I never thought this movie was. I always thought it bordered on boredom. I never thought this was. I don't dislike this movie at all, and I want to make
Right.
sure that's clear. I don't dislike this movie, but I never got that excited. Even the very first time watching it, about what I just never felt like. First of all, I wasn't following the story as well as I probably should, like I do with most Christopher Nolan movies. Even some of his tougher ones I followed better than this one. And I think that when you're having a hard time understanding some of the things going on because of the back and forth and of the two characters, some of it's lost in translation, and some of the excitement is lost too. And so when I feel the same way. I wasn't bored, but there was enough interesting thing to keep me going and keep me like engaged. But I can't say that it's like the most exciting movie I ever watched. And this time I didn't have any trouble watching it again because I actually was a little bit more engaged of trying to see if there was any clues. But beyond that, I wasn't, I still was just kind of like hanging in there, I mean, this wasn't anything like what was the other one? Black Mass, where I was really hanging in there,
Yeah, you don't have to force yourself through this movie. It's just
No, not at all.
not pulling you through the movie either.
Correct. Yeah, that's a better way to put it and stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, Crit. Not horrible, and I keep saying this, but I love Christopher Nolan. He is one of my favorite directors, and the thing is filmed and directed really well. I feel like I can't fault him in the way that it's. What I'm going to mean by that is the cinematography, the way that it's, you know, the kind of set pieces and things like that. I don't have a problem with those. Do I think it's the best that he's ever done? No. I could show you quite a few other movies he's done that are just far more superior. But it's definitely not a bad movie from one of my favorite directors. I mean, I'm always looking forward to watching a movie by Christopher Nolan when he puts them out, because he does. See, and that's the problem is, he put a lot of effort into this. If it wouldn't be Christopher Nolan if he didn't. He always puts so much effort in. If you watch behind the scenes of these movies, he is so flippin' dedicated to these movies. He loves doing things in camera, and he loves real film. He's that type of director, and yet, this one just had some faults that unfortunately didn't quite meet the expectation that I look at when I'm watching a Christopher Nolan film and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a group effort. Christopher Nolan probably works extremely hard on it, but the whole team does. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this one just didn't quite get there for me. And even though it's still not a bad movie.
Yeah, it comes down to like, this beats out like probably most movies that are made in the time. But compared to the rest of his movies, it's like, yeah, this is probably ones I'd skip. If I was
If
trying to
it,
introduce somebody to Nolan's movies, I probably wouldn't put this on the list of them to watch just because they'd be like, it's okay. Like if they respond well to it and they're like, I want to watch all of Nolan's films, I'll be like, all right, well here you can go see the full list and the Prestige
Mhm.
is on there, and it's definitely a Nolan film. You can see
Oh yeah.
it's his film, it's in his style.
Yep.
But it wouldn't be like my top three that I'd say you need to watch these movies.
Yeah, if
So
if Christopher Nolan films were cocaine, then this is cocaine laced with powdered sugar.
Oh, okay.
so let me ask you guys this: if we were talking Christopher Nolan movies, where would you put? What would be a? I know this is Prestige, but nevertheless, what would be your list of like favorite?
If I was going favorite, well, this is
Let's just do
down
Christopher
there
top
with
Nolan
threes.
movies.
Tenet. Yeah,
Let's
this
just do
is
top
this is
three.
Just three, yeah.
okay. So first, I'll place this one really quick. This is down there with Tenet. But my top three would have to be, oh man, Memento is definitely my top one. Dunkirk, and then probably Interstellar.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would probably
go.
do
good.
Interstellar, The Dark Knight, and then Memento.
I would
forgot about
probably
Dark Knight.
do Interstellar. I love that movie so much. Inception, and then gosh dang, The Dark Knight as well. I love that. That is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Heath Ledger as the Joker is just so good in that movie.
I think the only reason Dunkirk really beats out The Dark Knight is one, I forgot about The Dark Knight, and two, I really, really enjoy the set and the setting for Dunkirk.
Dunkirk's great. It's kind of a little bit different of the rest of his movies. It's a little bit more straight laced,
Yeah.
straightforward movie. There's no twists and turns in the sense of what normally you see in a Christopher Nolan movie, but it's directed so beautifully and stuff. I'd agree. That is a great movie and stuff. I was
really
totally
enjoy it.
enthralled by that movie the whole time I watched it. But if I had to pick three, those are my top three Christopher Nolan movies by a long shot. And then if I had to pick a fourth, it'd be Memento. That is just so tightly done. I still cannot believe how well done that movie is. It's just on my level. It's not the one I enjoyed the most out of. I enjoyed in the order I gave it to you.
Right.
Yep.
I hear you.
No, that makes sense.
And so, anyways, but it just kind of people out there, you can just kind of see our love for Christopher Nolan. It's kind of like Villeneuve. I mean, if we had to like start saying our favorite movies of Villeneuve, I mean, we could do it because I mean, it's just he's such they're just such respected directors and stuff. Hopefully, I'm not talking out of turn for you guys. I know Crit likes Villeneuve.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't want to speak for you, John.
No, I love Villeneuve so much.
Yeah, super good. He's right up there. It's funny as I've gotten older. There's definitely some directors that really pop out at me that are just solid, and there's two of them right now: Villeneuve and Nolan. Man, I look forward to every movie those guys put out. Even the wins I think are going to be weird, like the one that Villeneuve's going to be doing after Dune 2. What is it? Rama. I can't remember the full name of it, but yeah.
Arthur C. Clarke's sci-fi movie.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
Rendezvous with Rama.
Rendezvous with Rama. There we go. I've never even read that book.
I've read the book a couple of times.
I recommend it.
high
I think it's one of those foundational novels for science fiction.
I think it's extreme. Yeah, I think it's extremely slow and extremely. You have to be extremely patient with that book to get through it. But
do you recommend me reading it if I were to read it? Because I haven't.
I recommend you listening to it on audiobook. Like, I think as an audiobook, it serves really well.
Because I really love 2001: A Space Odyssey and 2010.
Yeah,
I mean, I love those books. Are great.
Yeah, this is much slower, I think.
Much slower than those. Yeah, it's more of a contemplative book than it is like an action. It doesn't have a lot of action in it. So if you want action, Rendezvous with Rama is not your pick.
It's funny with books. I'm a little bit more patient when it comes to kind of slower builds. I don't know why I am that way. I mean, a lot of people would say, why do you like? I mean, there's a lot of science fiction books that do have some of those slower builds until you get to the core of them, and that's okay.
I read it in high school, and then I recently listened to it as an Audible book
Oh.
on Audible. So this is our promotional pitch for Audible to sponsor our podcast. I really enjoyed the audiobook of it. I think it helped a little bit with the slow feeling of it because I don't know, it let you sink in more and like, I don't know, feel the depth of his writing a little bit better. So if you want to read it again, or if you're interested in reading it, I highly recommend listening to the audiobook if you're into
Interesting.
audiobooks. If you don't like
Sure.
audiobooks at all, then you're going to hate it, obviously. But if you enjoy audiobooks or go that
Well,
direction,
and if you guys are talking about that way about Rama, it makes me really curious and excited to find out what Villeneuve is going to do with it. You know,
Well, that's the real question, because if this story is so slow and contemplative, how, is that going to translate? Like 2049 has way more action, what he did with Blade Runner, than what
Mm.
Rama ever has. Like
Mhm.
basically, Rama's basically, to some reason, to some degree, if you've read Sphere or even seen the movie Sphere, like that's
Yeah.
a lower budget, less sci-fi, but still sci-fi
version of
version of the
Rama.
same type of story, where it's like a mystery box and you're trying to figure out, except the mystery box is an entire ship. And
I thought that movie was slow as hell. But
yeah,
anyways.
and this is a slower story, at least from what the book is does. So it'd be interesting to see like how he takes that slow story and turns it into a narrative that a wide audience would want to see.
Right.
Because if he didn't get a wide audience with Blade Runner 2049, I'm worried about Rendezvous with Rama, because either they're going to change the story so much so that it does appeal to a wider audience, which I don't know if I want that, or he's going to, go after it with the same type of like, page for page, let's get this right, let's get this actual story on screen correctly, and that story will only appeal to a niche set of people. But here's hoping. I mean, he's pulled off some amazing stuff before, so, and I liked 2049, so I'll enjoy it probably.
Take a chance on me. Yeah, that's what that's what that movie is singing to you. That's what you should do.
Okay.
So, yep.
So ratings for the Prestige, or unless we got something else.
Nope, I'm good. I'm good. We don't. Yeah, we don't. I don't know that we need to. I think we've covered it. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, so I would watch this with my mom only if she hadn't seen it before. If she'd already seen it, then I won't watch it with her.
Yeah, and I'll probably give this a 5 out of 10. It's a average movie. You get some enjoyment out of it. You're not bored. You don't want to turn it off, and it's not so bad it's good. Type movie. But it isn't one I'm like gonna go back and probably watch again.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fascinating watch on the first watch for sure. Well, it's okay. I think it's yeah. I think it's fine.
Are you ready for my picks? Okay. So I tend to do themes or things of that nature with my picks. I will give you a small little hint on this one that shouldn't give anything too far away. All of these films share an actor.
Okay.
So okay. So
uh,
first one. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, did you have a good? Did you have a good
Yeah.
quip? I was
No,
excited
I
for
was
the
gonna say
quip.
Kevin Bacon, but
Yeah, these are all within the n degrees of bacon. Oh, bad.
and
Okay,
being one.
now I can
All
talk
right.
about bacon degrees. Okay, so first one, can you remember being funny? Second one, prime. Third one, always watching. So the first one is can you remember being funny? Second one is prime. Third one is always watching.
All right. I want to know about Prime, but what do you want, Josh?
Well,
Okay.
apparently I made that one a little too interesting. Dang it.
You didn't want that one? What'd you put on the
No,
list?
I want it. It just I think it's the weakest out of the three. But I
Oh,
think
well, we'll
there's
know next
still a
week.
lot of we'll know next week. There's still a lot of good things to talk about, I think, about it. Anyway, so can you remember being funny is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Ooh, dang it. We could have done a
Yeah.
Kaufman film again.
Always Watching is The Truman Show.
Hmm.
And if you've guessed who the actor is, it's really easy. It's Jim Carrey. Prime is The Number 23.
Oh, you're right.
But I'm
Oh,
absolutely right. I think it's the weakest of the three.
yeah.
So
I think there's some interesting themes there. Oh man, I wish we would have picked
yeah,
one. You should have made one more compelling.
I tried to make it more compelling. I thought it was. I thought Prime was going to be the weakest of the naming too. So I'm like, okay, yeah, they'll pass by that one. And oh, dang it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, no, that would have been good. Number 23, I think there'll be a yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah,
by the same
23 I think
guy.
we'll have
It's Yeah, it's by the same guy
yeah.
did I'm thinking of ending things, which was your favorite show from
Yeah.
previous.
So I'm thinking we'll still it might be the weakest of the three in my opinion, but I think we'll still have a lot of good things to talk about with it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited for it to see it. I haven't watched it for like 10 years.
Okay.
It won't be after this film. Dun dun dun.
Oh, that's great.
I was debating whether or not to put Ace Ventura in there, but I didn't think Pet Detective was that much of a mind bender.
No.
Because I was like, I want to do Jim Carrey movies. I want to do Eternal Sunshine, but I want a theme. I'm like, I'll do Jim Carrey movies. I'm like, crap. No, not really. These are cable guy. Yeah, mind numbing is probably a better 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 fit.
All right.
Hey, for all of those that are still hanging out there, thank you for staying with us. I'm sorry about the audio. It was lost due to the software that we were using on the backside. So we appreciate your patience. And please like and subscribe to the channel if you like what you hear or if you like our other podcasts that we do. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.